Hi again, guys. I just created this sheet here to help you understand the calculation and recording of the employer's payroll tax expense. I'm sure you've seen in your chapters that there's a journal entry that first records from the payroll register the employee's payroll cost, where the debit is made to salaries and wages expense for the total salaries and wages earned during the payroll period, and then all of the liabilities for the withholdings as well as the net pay are credited to the various payable accounts. And salaries payable is credited for the net pay that will be paid to the employees. This is a bit of a different entry, but it is an absolute second required entry involving payroll that deals with employer payroll tax expense. And at the end of the calculations, I will culminate this thing in a journal entry that you will see in your textbook, your exercises, and you can just see it right there for now, and I'll show you the calculations in a bit. Okay, so the stuff can get a little bit confusing and complicated, I realize that. So I'm going to take a moment here to try to simplify it as much as I can and take the same example that I used before that focused on the employees' FICA, which consisted of the OASDI and the Medicare. I had told you then also that these two taxes, for the FICA taxes, the two components of FICA, the OASDI and the Medicare, are also obligations at the same percentage as the employee pays. So not only does the employer pay in for the employee from the withholdings, pays in the employee's money, but also has to kick in his own or her own share. And we will be using, well, the actual rate today is 6.2%. The ceilings or the caps or the maximums are right around $118,000. They change. They usually go up, and they've been going up yearly. So I don't care about whatever the exact rate is at this moment. You can easily find out what the FICA tax base, which would they call it? They would call it the tax base for withholding and the employer's obligation. And the Medicare, which is in fact on all of the earnings. There's no cap. There's a little bit of a technicality once you hit, I think, 225,000. They add on another 0.9% to that, but I don't want to complicate. I don't want to complicate the problem. Keep it to 1.45 on all earnings, no cap, no ceiling. As I said previously, an employee can earn $500 or $1 million, and they will be taxed on that million at the rate of 1.45%. However, the first 118,000 or whatever it is taxed, and then the excess over that is exempt for tax. So you have to be careful when you're calculating payroll and payroll taxes is to identify the taxable portion of earnings for purposes of calculating the tax, because for FICA there are caps on the OASDI, but not on Medicare. And then you have your two unemployment taxes. These are not employee, not. You will see it come up in quizzes and tests and homework. You got to be careful. The employer's taxes for unemployment are exclusively borne by the employer, not the employee. So what we're going to do here is assume a rate which is a commonly used rate and even used in practice at the rate of 0.8%. That's capped as well. The FUTA cap, the federal unemployment tax cap, is 7,000. We're going to use the same 7,000 for the state unemployment cap, even though the states vary in how much of how much of the employee's income subjects the employer to the tax. But we're going to go ahead and use a $7,000 cap for whatever state you want to be in. Here in Massachusetts, I believe it's more than seven. I think it could be $8, $10, $12,000 or so. I don't keep my eye on it. But anyway, realize that the boss or the employer's obligation stops at whatever that cap is. The FUTA, the federal, is in fact capped at 7. I don't know if it's in the works for that to go up. It probably will at some point. Of course, the unemployment taxes are the contributions to the insurance program that we have, and you know it as unemployment. And what do you do when you get laid off? Is you go down to the unemployment tax. As long as you've contributed in, you're not going to have any problem collecting what you're entitled to. And that is funded by the companies out there that pay the employees. It's funded through the unemployment tax laws. So the 4 taxes then, which will be debiting payroll tax expense for total of 4 is the FICA OASDI, the FICA Medicare, the federal unemployment tax. Okay, remind you that that's 0.8%. That's less than 1%. So be careful with your decimal. You can throw your you can throw, like if whatever we're using here, $7,000 times 0.8, you can in your calculator enter 0.8%, or you can do it multiply times 0.008 equals and whatever it comes to. So be careful with that in terms of decimal errors that are not uncommon. The state unemployment tax, the rate is generally issued annually to companies based on a merit rating system. They will get a higher rate if they have a higher layoff experience, and a lower rate if they are solid and don't lay off people very often. So it's like your auto insurance. The more accidents you get in, the higher your rate goes. They call that merit rating, and the same applies to the unemployment tax here in Massachusetts. So annually, the employer will get a rate card indicating what their rate will be from year to year to year. So we'll assume a rate of 5%. It can vary. I think a new employee starts out at 3, 4, 5% or so, and it can go up. I don't know what the top ceilings are, but it can range 4 to 10%, perhaps a little less, perhaps a little more. I again don't know details for all the states. But at any rate, we will use the cap of $7,000 annual, so that once an employee, both for federal and for state, once an employee, an individual, okay, hits that $7,000 in earnings, cumulative earnings during the year, the employer is exempt thereafter. So that if I earn $10,000, the boss will pay 5%, 5.8% actually, between the two. On the first 7,000, then beyond that, if I earn 10,000, that other $3,000 is exempt, so that the boss gets off the hook for the extra 3,000. In this problem, I'm going to make the same assumption I did in the previous video, where the earnings for the year, say for me, okay, or $120,000. I kicked in my own 6.2. Now here's the boss kicking in his 6.2 of not the 120, because the FICA OASDI is capped. So tax one is the FICA OASDI at 6.2% of the first $118,000, which I hit the cap. That's 7316. The FICA Medicare, is uncapped, so all $120,000 is taxed, as you can see, so that $2,000 beyond the 118 does not escape the FICA Medicare tax, and the calculation comes out to 1740. Again, for the federal unemployment tax, the rate that I'll assume is 8%. I certainly did earn more than 7,000, so I and anyone else that works in the company that earns beyond 7,000 will pay 0.8. The employer will pay 8.8% and pay a full 5%, which I'm assuming on each individual's earnings up to 7,000. Again, the boss is off the hook over those amounts. The employee, again, is not responsible for these two taxes. They don't come up in an employee payroll entry. They are exclusive to the employer payroll tax entry, which you'll see here in your exercises and your textbook and your slides and the other videos that you have available to you. Under any circumstances, what I did is I calculated each of the four taxes and added them up to a total of $9,462. And I'm going to use that figure, as I indicated way up here. The employer payroll tax expense is another expense account that gets on the books through a debit to payroll tax expense. And there it is right there. I created a little bit of a journal down here with a debit and credit column and showing you that the employer's payroll tax expense is debited for $9,462. That brings the expense on for the extra cost for the employer for taxes, which he has to pay. He pays at various times, so that I'm not going to credit cash. I'm going to credit the payables for each of the four. And then when they get paid off, however often by law they are supposed to be paid, whether it's weekly, monthly, quarterly, or annually, as sometimes the case could be, then we debit the liabilities and credit cash at that point. Okay, I hope this helps you understand the tax calculations a little bit better than you did before. Use my videos. I think that they are helpful, and let me know if you think they're helpful. And of course, we're concerned with making sure that you do the best you can on all of the material that you're responsible for. I'm always here to help you by email, and use my stuff, guys. Read, play this. You can stop it, you can rewind it, you can play it again, you can pause it and read it, and so on and so forth. I don't think there are any errors in here. I hope. Sometimes I can make a spelling error, but let me keep it short. 13 minutes is a long time. Oh my God. Okay.